I think that this is where we're going to begin the investigation for what the heck happened to Taiyo.
A large city surrounded by green walls and acres of poppy fields. A group of monks traveled toward the city, exchanging prayers for whatever alms the poor peasants of the countryside can spare. In the noble quarter, we see a beautiful but imposing palace and a foreign-looking minareted estate. In the temple quarter, we see the glistening white temple of the sun goddess with a 60-foot pole topped by a shimmering golden spear, and the temple of the fortune of wealth with its towering statue of the patron god of the city. Next door, in the merchant quarter, we see busy streets with noisy merchants selling wares from all over Rokugan and beyond. On the other side of the Bay of Drowned Honor, the fisherman's quarter, dirtier with poorer commoners, meaner gangs, and shabby dwellings amid the docks and warehouses. We pass the leather workers' quarter, the home of the Ada, the Untouchables, and the only building of notice there, the city crematorium. Finally, we arrive at Teardrop Island, the license quarter, with its perpetual twilight of hanging lanterns, fine sake and geisha houses. We follow a man in a basket hat as he's beckoned inside by a beautiful geisha. He enters and removes his hat. We see one of the monks from the beginning. Ryoko Owari, City of Lies.
I think we could just have one roll be made for this. All right, and the deal is that it's going to take you guys the entire rest of winter to figure out what's going on. So you'll get this information, but there could be like backlash or consequences about it. So someone will make this roll.
I think based on how the game's been going, it's the 7th day of winter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
pretty much.
It was there wasn't. It did come on unusually soon. Maybe it abated for a little bit, but then through the rest of winter, you guys conduct this investigation. Mm-hmm. So, who would want to be the person kind of taking up the lead on this? And that this will be the person, if there are negative consequences, that they would most likely suffer those negative consequences.
I hear you, but I kind of already accepted things about it. Like, I got the news and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go start looking for it.
Ishi, go ahead and roll plus sagacious.
Well, that's good. That's a good one. That's a good one. It's going to be Snake Eyes are 3, won't you? I'll be good.
Snake Eyes 3 is 9.
Snake Eye 3 is
9.
All right.
Snake Eyes.
Okay. So,
3
I'm going to do the same thing where I give you guys the information, and then you describe to me how over the course of the rest of the winter, which is at least like another month, maybe.
Okay.
You guys discover this information. So, and this is a lot of stuff that we actually said off mic in the last game. So eventually it's discovered that Raspy, Eyebrows, and Pitiful, who are kind of the leaders of the Eda community, organized this. They were upset that Taiyo was working with like the opium cartels. And the reason that they were so bothered by this was because the Eda in Ryoko Owari, or Eda in Ryoko Owari, unlike Eda almost in any other city in the entire empire, actually do arguably better than some of the other commoners. And the reason for that is because of the amount of people in Ryoko Owari, and because they have been allowed to basically like get payment for like removing human excrement, let alone like saddle making, and since there's a lot of unicorn in the area, the Eda here actually have more money than any Eda anywhere else in the empire, and occasionally even more money than some peasants nearby. In fact, some of the Eda have even snuck out of the city to try to set themselves up as money lenders in like nearby rural communities, which generally hasn't gone well.
They still look like that.
But, well, So, but there's...
I asked for a loan and you just gave me a handful of shit.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Shitty interest rate.
Hey.
But so they, they're restricted. They're restricted not only in where they can live, what they can do, but even what they can buy. And so since they're restricted in all those things, one of the only things they can do is turn to the illegal economy. And opium dealers will definitely still sell them opium. And so increasingly more and more of the Eda in Ryoko Owari have become addicted to opium. And basically nobody cares except other Eda. So, Raspian
Gonna figure this out. Episode 4.
Only those Thunder Guard had let us in.
You remember I said, like, I thought you guys were going to maybe figure this out, because at some point you guys were grilling eyebrows about stuff, and I was like, this is getting real close to the actual info, which you guys discover that in actuality they had killed Taiyo because they knew he was connected to the opium cartels. Mm-hmm. And in fact... the Eda can tell you a bunch of information about Taiyo's comings and goings with the opium cartels, and Pitiful, as one of the torturers, can tell you a bunch of information that people had given up under torture about the opium cartels. How Taiyo was basically like getting paid with them, that the house that he had they think was like paid for by the opium cartels. They can tell you that the Soshis, the Bayushis, and the Shosurus in the city controlled each of the 3 cartels before the Soshis seemingly disappeared. And how they basically attacked him. They planned an attack against Taiyo because they thought that would stop it and that you guys would look into this more. And it was the same thing that they had done when Naratoki was the magistrate, and that they were in fact the ones responsible for that. And so I think you definitely learn a lot of this through torture, for sure. But if you guys want to give me just details of the investigation, because I imagine we see a montage of this happening. And so maybe just like a scene of this investigation going on, of you guys finding out that it was these folks. And I think Anjo is particularly able to figure this stuff out very easily.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did you see my moves?
Yeah, I did. They're a little bullshit, gotta say. What does the investigation look like?
So yeah, just give us a scene that we have in this montage.
Yugure visits Taiyo's wife and asks, like, when did you see him?
Okay, so we see you. Right?
Well, yeah, talking to her and then finding out. I guess you had like a... Well, I can think of as palanquin, which is... But you were being... rickshawed. I don't know if she knew that you had, like, called for a rickshaw, or, like, if you had a normal method of getting rickshawed around. Mm-hmm. But maybe the usual person doesn't do it anymore, like, doesn't answer the summon, like somebody else comes, or something like that.
So you find out that he took a rickshaw and it was maybe a different rickshaw than normal.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What else? What else do we find out? Or it's another scene. And you don't even have to necessarily present the information you find from this, just the scene that we see. It can be like a silent scene where music is playing and we just see you guys doing a thing.
Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
I think, I'd say, like, there'll be, like, a period of time where, like, the magistrates are asking questions, but they're getting, like, no information, and start to just get more frustrated, and then they just start, like, looking into any lead they can, and they just kind of take out their frustration on the Eda, and then just leads to, like, leads to one of them talking.
Oh, you're saying because we're being, like, pressured with them.
Okay.
We're not, like, getting information, and then like someone's got to know something.
So without you, like, beating up?
And so it'll be like...
It's just a scene of, like, fucking wailing on it.
Yeah, we'll grab, like, some random Eda that, like, kind of, like, works near Taiyo's house. And you're like, you have to know something. You must be hiding it.
Yeah, gosh.
Then you're like, you're gonna get interrogated.
Just some dude on the street.
Okay. So maybe Aji beats up the person who basically like takes away some of the filth from like Taiyo's house, just because he's just pissed off, and the person says something that kind of like gives them the clue that actually the Edda are around a lot. They're all over the city. So he discovers that even they should know something. Maybe he's so frustrated that he's like these people are everywhere. Maybe even they would know something. We can't find anything. And he beats this guy up until he like says something about it that just gives you a clue to like look into them possibly.
Yugure is not there for that.
And again, we don't even need to go that detailed. It can just be like a scene that we see.
I think Asako's doing like the boring. Maybe this is what he's especially good at. It's just like going over the documents and everything, and like, give me all the letters and things that were addressed to Taiyo or something, or like the records of the city or something. And that's where he gets like all the dirt on Taiyo and everything. It's like, oh, of course.
All right. I'd say there's probably also a scene of us like brushing past like the Thunder Guard that are in front of
It's called the Wretched Gate. Is the gate?
The Wretched Gate. Yeah, breaking past the same guard that we've seen a bunch of times.
But it takes another hour.
It takes we just push them aside, like, get the hell out of here.
So you have like the whole posse of you kind of head through, breeze past the Thunder Guard into the leather workers' quarter,
and we're just like doing a raid, pretty much, like busting down doors, getting important people out.
Okay,
that kind of thing. Sorry for quotation mark in the important part. A little cruel.
All right, so yeah,
didn't mean to do that.
So eventually you're able to get some of these folks who are a little bit more important,
I think to drive home, just Asako Anjo, maybe it's just if any of them give resistance, since they're Edda, it's just like, all right, Oshi, kill that one, or Hoshi, yeah, that's it. Maybe like the second or third one that he just cuts down, they're like, okay, here's where you need to go.
Yeah. Okay.
I think he's willing to do that.
Sure.
What a brutal boy.
Yeah. So eventually you're able to get some of the folks who were like peripherally connected to this, like some of the folks who worked at the crematorium who were told to leave on that night, so that way, like, which was weird because they were normally supposed to work there then, or a person who was told to pick up a body from the fisherman's court, like all like these different things that kind of come together, and eventually you can get there's peripheral players in this that just don't have names that are probably also arrested and kind of spill their guts once they're tortured. But yeah, the ringleaders of this were indeed eyebrows, raspy and pitiful, who was himself one of the main torturers at the Civil Hall.
Yeah. All of them but raspy. Never met that guy, I don't think.
It wouldn't make sense for you guys to, really. When that information is found out, what do you guys do with that information?
Is this like another meeting?
I'd prefer if it wasn't. I think just as the PCs, what do you do?
Do you think it'd be like way shameful if we were like, oh yeah, this very important magistrate was killed by like these people who are nobodies?
Yeah, no.
I feel like it'd be like super shameful for Taiyo if we were just like, yep, this is it.
Yeah, but that's why I'm thinking Asako Anjo has like a strategy, I guess.
What is it?
Yeah, what is that?
Now's the
time.
I know. I feel it's more of a meeting thing, but sure.
Okay, if we want.
I don't care. We can just breeze by it. I'm sure everyone will agree. He's like, oh, I found evidence that Taiyo was an imposter, so that's fine. We can just say that happened. There won't be any shame on the office of the Emerald Magistrates.
Oh, so
because obviously this
Taiyo, like deep underneath the bus. Okay.
Yeah, just we need to make it known that she apparently was just an imposter and fooled the three of you, and that she only died because she wasn't meant for this office anyway. Therefore, we don't have to have the shame to the Emerald Magistrates that 2 were killed within less than a year. So perfect. This works out well.
But what about the fact that she was of the family she claimed to be?
If she was a liar and an imposter for this long, it doesn't matter. She probably lied about other things that we'll probably get to the bottom of later.
What does that mean for... I think you guys are just going to stick with his. Like, what does that mean for his family?
The imposter's family?
Taiyo's.
Oh, that doesn't matter to us, I don't think. Would it?
Matters to them.
Well, I'm not sure how. I feel it's more important to protect the office of the magistrates from shame than some imposter who already brought shame upon herself. I'm not sure what would happen to her family, but I'm sure there's plenty of places she could move to or stay here. It doesn't matter to me. Seems
You're right.
Much less important.
Yeah, so without extending the scene, I think Yugre is actually fine with a lot of that because a lot of it's true. But Yugre would like to, assuming they are now just, basically stranded, dishonored from their family and things like that, Yugre would want to definitely, take them as wards or if necessary.
You mean Taiyo's children?
And
the wife.
And wife.
Okay.
A little weird there. Reward, but...
Well, I don't know the logistics of that, but, to make sure they're all...
She's not like a servant in the household or some shit.
Package deal.
It's just...
Well, that they're not all just tossed out on the streets or something.
Here.
And Yugre would, vouch for them,
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that needs to be, a big thing. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but... Yeah.
Do you think a Sarkonja would be super weirded out if he discovered that? Or no?
It's not a secret. I'll tell him during this conversation.
Yeah, I don't think he cares about that.
Okay.
Just as long as we need to make sure that everyone, at least in the city, knows that it wasn't that 2 magistrates didn't die, 1 died, and then another was an imposter that, shouldn't have been in that position anyway.
All right.
It's questionable how it took the 3 of you so long to figure that out, if you did it all, but it's fine. I'm sure that's fine. As long as it doesn't go, shame isn't put onto the Emerald Champion, I'm happy.
Very well. Yugre feels like he wants to defend Taiyo, but kind of can't. Because
Yeah, don't worry. We're all like that.
Okay. So I'm going to mark this down.
I'm pretty sure most of us feel like that. Meantime, I explicitly left all that whole imposter stuff out of the letter.
well, not just can't because of the authority, but can't because
It's all true.
a lot. Yeah, it's just true.
It's just all truth, of course.
So I think while you were searching for Taiyo, a letter arrived from Bayushi, from Kyuden Bayushi.
All right, let's just retcon everything.
So no, but I think a letter arrived, and it's addressed to Taiyo, but it arrived, it was brought to the magistrate residence rather than to Taiyo's house.
Okay.
I think it was brought there possibly by mistake, but either way, it was brought there. Either it was brought there either by mistake or because since you guys have been doing this investigation, you had it be brought to you.
Okay.
And it is a letter from Taiyo's father.
Taiyo.
Who's also named Taiyo. Taiyo Sr.
Oh my god, why did you do this?
All right.
You did it.
So, I'm going to need you to refresh my memory on what you were asking Taiyo Sr. about.
I wrote that down.
Excellent.
Oh my god.
And then I can give you his response to this letter. And it might be useful, it might not. I'll try to make it relevant to us so that way it's
Oh
not
my
just
gosh,
like...
how many sessions ago was this letter sent?
Who's finding this and reading it?
Yeah, that's my other question. Is who's reading this?
Five sessions.
Hold on, before you say that, who reads this letter?
Who feels the most conflicted?
About Taiyo?
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to say Yugure.
Yeah, that's what I would
If
guess.
Yugure finds it, his wife, Taiyo's wife, is reading it.
Oh, Jesus, I don't...
So meaning that Yugure wouldn't open it and read it?
Right.
No.
I would
Maybe I
open
give
it,
it. Yeah, maybe I give
I
it to
would
you.
open
So the
it.
information comes out, whatever it is.
It's illegal to open someone else's mail.
That's not in our.
No, not true, though. He says we can do whatever we want.
Hey, I'm there.
So what does it say?
Gave him all the information I had on Saigo. I said, I fear the city is in danger and that everyone thinks I'm corrupt and I can't do anything about it. And then I said, someone learned our family secrets, hinting that it was, the big secret.
Ooh. I think Taiyo Sr.'s response is that like Saigo has a reputation for getting things done. He's always put his family. He's always put his duty to the Bayushi family above his desire to serve himself. Mm-hmm. Basically, follow his instructions. Essentially, if you believe. And then addressing the issue that I think this family secret's come out, and he basically says take whatever steps to make sure that you're not discovered, or take whatever steps to keep your part in this safe. And I think it says she, meaning Hikari, basically you and she have made your bed. Mm-hmm. There's no need for my heir to get smothered in it. Send Jinko and Kageko home.
Now that Taiyo's whole thing is are that whole group of people dishonored from their family?
It depends how much of it gets out.
Well, this man's definitely on the whole most of it getting out plan. At least the Taiyo was an imposter. So yeah, I guess I'd
So if one of you guys wants to make an effort to try to spare Taiyo in some way or another, Taiyo's reputation, that could work. You might have to make some kind of roll to essentially try to do that, but that's a possibility.
I guess I'd let Yugure know, because Yugure is taking care of the children now. And the father's like, hey, bring these heirs back.
Well, I think Yugure has expressed an interest to take care of these children.
Not that they've necessarily...
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
He's not been awarded custody of these children. Their mother is still very alive.
Hey, man, I don't know.
Not trying to take the kids from her. It's just if they're all going to be dispossessed, I want to take care of all of them.
What's this?
Make some kind of roll to protect Taiyo's.
Basically, Taiyo's reputation, yeah.
Me and Taiyo's reputation.
Yeah.
Taiyo,
All right.
Oh, protect his
Sounds good. So,
reputation.
Aji, I think you're going to make a... This sounds like an elegant roll.
Very elegant.
Go for it. What do we get?
An 8.
8. Okay.
You're not that elegant.
So, I think the easy way to save this is to admit that almost to spin this as a story of like family, like duty to family, where the real Taiyo had died, had at some point passed away.
Oh, the imposter.
And that this imposter, who you guys maybe all three of you know was like his sister, like picked up the mantle to help raise her dead brother's children, and like help his wife who was bereaved.
Yeah.
His poor grieving wife, yeah. And so basically that just like out of love of family, this is what went on. And that maybe she wasn't in the end ready for this position, but at least she kind of like she tried to like help her family and save her family. So it saves the face of Hikari and it saves the face of like Taiyo. The thing I think that's going to happen is you guys might take a hit for somehow either not noticing this or not saying anything about it. And you guys can choose, but I think like either way, I think everybody ends up taking like a face. Where it basically like comes out that like, how did you guys not
really close.
Figure this one out?
That's a bad. Those were bad.
Gotta kill myself real fast.
Does that sound all right?
That's for a bad time.
Yeah, because it'd be like, Taiyo was one of us, you know, and it'd be like, oh, that's like the ultimate example of scorpion duty.
You also at 5?
You don't see anything socially wrong with that.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so that's the message that kind of gets out, and I think Aji kind of takes up the mantle of like, or takes up the lead on getting that information out to people, and
I think Hikari was originally a crane too.
Right. I think that helps the situation, and so the game plan is honestly, at the moment, for at least the family to go back to Kyuden Bayushi.
Mm-hmm.
So that is probably the situation, and I think, and I'll let David, I'll let you have this description. How does Hikari feel about that? When basically it's like she and her kids have to head back to Kyuden Bayushi. And if she plans on not doing that, that's fine. But I think she's going to kind of exit the scene.
Mm-hmm. Exit our little world.
Mm-hmm.
Which is manufactured.
Yeah, I mean, I guess she probably wouldn't be super excited about it. Because she probably hates Lord Taiyo too. So I think she wouldn't be up in arms enough to be like, well, I'm not going. But if anyone, tried to gauge her, it'd be like, no, she's not happy about this at all.
Okay.
There's really nothing else they can do other than like go on the run, right? Like these powerful scorpion guys, like, hey, bring my grandkids to me.
Yeah.
You don't have anywhere else to live anyway. It's like,
okay, so maybe she somehow we like see an exchange where like this letter is like delivered to her by Yugure, and maybe we can just like see that in her eyes of like she doesn't want to go back but feels she doesn't have any other option.
yeah, I think Yugure will make it clear that like we could find a way. Like, you're welcome with my family, but this is what's best.
Oh, can I just be Hikari right now? Is that a scene we can do?
If you want to do this as a scene.
Because I think Hikari will bring up, like, oh, I appreciate that you brought this to us. We basically had to run away from Lord Bayushi after what happened, and I guess it's probably safer to live there than here, but I'm sure you know more than most that we're just going from one scorpion's den to another. And, I don't know if Taiyo ever told you, but he was hoping that our families would join together. That's why he put such effort into making sure our children were so close. But I hope one day I do see you and your family again.
Me too.
Dude,
And I think, I don't know how you, Gray, would express this, but like he's got a scorpion doing some kind of mess at his house. Mm-hmm. And if he could get a scorpion he trusts back at his like ancestral home, maybe if she's got any of Taiyo's skills, that like we'd be able to work together and like fix this issue, and like Hikari would have a nice place to live, and Yugure's problems of whatever his sister-in-law's up to could be mitigated. So I don't know how I would express that, but I think he still feels like what's best for Hikari is to just go back to this guy that Yugure doesn't know. So like maybe he doesn't know how terrible Lord Taiyo is, but it's just like, well, you're all family, so like you should be together. Mm-hmm. And like, and to not send Hikari back to him would be like to defy this guy, which also doesn't seem like a great idea. So Yugure says that, and then
okay, yeah, she might do something along the lines of like, well, now that I'm not married to anyone, and that he has an heir, and I'm at his home, I fear that he might not have use for me, and that just going here might be even more dangerous. But who knows?
Well, maybe you could talk to him about if he wanted our families closer. Perhaps he would agree to that one day.
Yeah. I'll
Certainly he wouldn't send your children without their mother.
Shinjo Sanafusa walks calmly through his father's estate. The son of a Hatamoto, he is accustomed to luxury, and that is saying something in the wealthy unicorn clan. We see Sanafusa sitting down to relax and enjoy a cup of sake. The room is quiet and peaceful. He sinks down and slowly sips at the sake, exhaling slowly. The knock at the door is quiet. Sanafusa takes another sip of sake, exhales once more, and says, "Enter." The shoji screen is opened by a servant. We see his skin color and eyes are different from Sanafusa's. The servant is a Gaijin, not uncommon among the unicorn. "There is a package for you, master," the servant says, eyes averted. We see that he has a gift-wrapped box no larger than 1.5 cubic feet. The wrapping is plain but of fine paper. "I believe it was brought by one of the Ide's servants, my lord." "You believe?" Sanafusa says indignantly, but then cools. "However, they do have many servants. Next time you should ask who something is from. That is, unless you are sure you know who it's from." Sanafusa subtly motions to the servant, and the prostrated man brings the package to his master. Without acknowledging the servant, Shinjo Sanafusa slowly begins to open the package. We see Shinjo Yoshiko, Sanafusa's sister, walking the halls of the Shinjo estate. She's in her night clothes. She hears something. A moan, a thump. Whatever it is, it came from her brother's room, where a light still glows, though dimly. She knocks gently at the door. There is no answer. She calls to him, "Sanafusa?" But there is no response. She knocks again, but the only response is a punctuated wheeze. Shinjo Yoshiko opens the door to her brother's room just a crack. We hear the wheezing grow louder, and then a scream. So we join Kakita Aji at the Civil Hall. He's going about some of his duties. It's very uncommon, but Aji's been here lately a bit more, especially as the investigation of Taiyo's disappearance has gone on. One of the torturers approaches Aji-sama. And he says, Aji-sama, my lord. Eyes averted, head bowed down.
What do you want?
And he says, I only seek to help you as I should, as a person who extracts information from those accused of crimes. That is all.
All right. Then what is the information you extracted?
And he says, well, it's that I haven't, my lord, with the exception of the others that were brought in about the matter earlier. Those are my keys jingling. I'm normally, and he basically says normally he's paid a bit more, and that he's a little bit bothered by this.
Who usually pays you?
And he says, well, usually Magistrate Yogo Asako-sama engages me to interrogate those brought in, but that's happened a bit less lately, and I mean, for the most part, you yourself and your colleagues, the other magistrate samas, have been bringing in the accused. And as now that Pitiful is gone, I've been doing more. I wanted to see if perhaps I could be compensated a bit more.
Is there no longer a head executioner or interrogator?
And he says, I mean, I'm one of only just a few that are still engaged here to take part in this, but I've become much busier, and I mean, there have been some things that I wish to. What does he say? He'll say, like, I mean, there are some things that I've found out that there are always things that we find out that we could certainly help with. He's kind of stumbling around through this.
What is your name, Edda?
My name is, and I'm going to pull the name of a random Edda from the Leatherwork Recorder, Crafty.
All right, Crafty.
He goes by Crafty.
We don't have real names.
Mm-hmm.
I will give you
That was good.
more wages. However, I want you to speak to me about these problems because I don't want I don't want the same problem to happen again as it did with the late Taiyo-sama.
And he says, oh, I would never. I've no desire to harm anyone.
Well, good.
He is a torturer, but he means outside of his official capacities as professional person who harms people.
I'll hand him some money and send him on his way.
Okay, so here's, I think, what goes on. You give him some money, and he makes a comment. Would you be willing to give this due to wealth? That's a lot of money to give an Ada. That's an insane quantity of amount. But, like, if he says something that piqued your interest, would you be willing to give him this money?
I think so.
Okay. So, you give him just a few pennies, which is plenty of money for this guy. And he's like, oh, this'll really help. Especially after Osako-sama's not been so pleased with me. He kind of mumbles that to himself as he's leaving. And that kind of gets your attention. And then if you give him the rest of this wealth, which is an insane quantity of money for him, he spills the beans. And he'll tell you that the reason Osako-sama that Yogo Osako is not so pleased with him has been ever since he botched the job torturing Magda.
Oh my fucking god.
And he'll explain that Yogo Osako brought him on a trip down down the river, and they met up at like kind of a local like little port town where Yogo Asako essentially dispatched the Moment's Edge firemen that were with Magda, and then this guy Crafty was essentially hired to torture Magda to determine the location of this journal. The problem was that Magda didn't give up the location of the journal quickly, and Yogo Asako was rushing Crafty, and so in the process, Crafty ended up killing her. Like, she died during this interrogation. She hadn't given up the location of where this diary was, or where this journal was, and he doesn't know whose journal. Crafty doesn't know whose journal or diary it was. But he'll say since that happened, Yogo Asako's been fairly displeased with me. And I haven't been getting called upon as often as I had in the past, and they basically get like thrown some pennies every time they do this. And so he's not seen as much business essentially as others had in the past. Oh, and he'll kind of reveal to you that the Edda that work for Yogo Asako especially make money when they essentially will be willing to mess with testimony. And either like really push to almost trick a person into saying something, or even more so, specifically not ask about a thing.
Alright. He kind of reaches for a sword, like, oh, this is the guy. I kind of like, maybe I need to cut off this loose end. And then he just puts his sword back in his scabbard and is like, the money's already gone. And he just lets him have it. Aji's a little disappointed. He had to pay twice for Magda's death.
All right, so a request comes for an audience, and like an official audience at that, from Shinjo Yoshifusa.
Yeah, alright. Like, that he wants me there, or he wants to come see me? Because I'll just go there.
I think he's more interested in going to see you at either at the magistrate residence or the civil hall.
Okay, yeah, then I'll have him.
Because it definitely kind of like is in your capacity as a magistrate. Like, it's kind of addressed to you in that way.
Okay, I'll have him come to the residence and serve him sake and all that bullshit.
Okay.
Like, have him in the meeting room.
All right. So Shinjo Yoshifusa gets there, and he's already worked up when he arrives.
Oh, great.
And he's like, and he says, "Thank you for seeing me, Ishi-sama. I appreciate it, and I bring terrible news to a friend."
What happened?
He says, "My son has been murdered."
Murdered?
Yes.
When did this happen?
So his sister found his body just last night.
Who killed him? How was he killed?
He says, was it just last night? Yeah. And he says, poison most foul. A traitor's weapon.
Poison? Who would have done such a thing?
And he says, only a coward. And he goes, only a man who seeks to only a coward, only a usurper.
Usurper?
Yes. He says he's eyed my position for far too long. He's pecked away at me for years now. Over 2 weeks.
2 weeks, this man.
So waiting for me to. I guess he wasn't. I guess he wasn't content with waiting for me to pass away and speak to our champion, but instead murders my heir. So that when an old man passes, he can swoop in and steal the position he's wanted for all this time.
Who's done this to you?
And he says, why? He says, why that liar? Oh, he goes, like it's like a crafty, like a conniver. Why that conniving traitor Baronato?
Oh, you think Baronato? Mm-hmm. Man, that's a shit show. I called him Baronato for like 20 episodes. Do you really think Baronato? How do I do this? Being a dick? No, I'm just gonna be a dick. Do you really think Baronato desires your position?
And he says he's been hunting after it. I'd say gunning after it, but hunting after it for years. Why do half the people in this city, he presents themselves like he's the one in charge.
Well, I will look into it. I'll go question him and see if he. Yeah, I'll go question him and question his servants and the like to see if he's the one that. I guess he told me about the whole sending the package thing, right?
Yeah, he'll tell you that he poisoned. He sent like a poisoned. He'll say he sent a package with like a poisoned snake in it.
Oh, Jesus.
And it killed his son.
Alright, well, I'll go, ask the servants about all that shit, and I'll go do questions to figure out.
But here's the deal. Shinjo Yoshifusa is super pissed off. He wants you to do this as like an official, like he wants this dude arrested.
He's only one man. That's not enough to do an arrest warrant.
So
I will do the investigation. I will open a formal investigation against Baronato.
It sounds like you're manipulating him.
Sure.
Yeah, because he's basically like hemming and hawing and making a big deal. And if you want this guy to essentially let you do this, you're going to have to. What's that? 8. Okay. So you say you'll open an informal investigation. Okay. I think he's fine with that. Like, if you, what's the assurance that you can give him that this formal investigation is beginning?
Write a document. I don't know, man.
Yeah. If you write up some stuff,
document thing, I guess.
Sure. That like in your official paperwork, you're now looking into this guy as a suspect in this murder.
Sure.
Okay, that works for him. And and so he'll leave. He's still very mad, but he'll go.
Shit. Then I guess I'll head over to Baronato's.
All right. You have called him Baronata a couple times, but not always.
That's what I've always thought his name.
You've also called him Ide just a lot of times. Like you guys will often just regularly use just the family names.
I've done that.
But yeah, so if you go to the Ide residence, you can eventually meet with Ide Baronato, and he seems kind of bothered as well, but he'll meet with you in that same like kind of office room.
Okay.
He'll say like oh it's excellent to see you, Ishi-san. Welcome.
It seems that every time I come to see old friends that I come bearing bad news. Shinjo Shanafusa was just Yanafusa?
Yoshifusa is the father. Sanafusa is the son that was murdered.
Shinjo Yanafusa, goddamn. No, I'm fucking up. Yanafusa.
Sanafusa with it. Yoshifusa. We got these guys' names are in here. Go ahead and crack that open.
I have a thing.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Nice.
Let me go find
the old man
and write it down. Shinjo Yoshifusa just came in an uproar saying that his son was murdered and that you were the murderer. He forced me to open a formal investigation against you.
Ide Baronato says, I thought even that old man wouldn't be so like obtuse as to bring this to you. He'd made these claims to others already. and I didn't think that he would. I didn't think that he'd be so. Brazen to bring this before Emerald Magistrates, but I guess.
Does he know about the guy that died, Jennifer?
Yeah, I guess he'll say like, if Sanafusa was really murdered, then I understand that the death of a son can. And he'll kind of like he'll stop there. He'll cut himself off, given like what he's.
I'm gonna read him just because I don't. But if he was really murdered, comment. So it's a 9. Is he telling the truth when he says if he was really murdered? That whole statement. That's what he said.
Why don't we keep talking? If he was really murdered is a weird one to go.
Because if he's the murderer, then he's not telling the truth because he's being like, oh, this thing didn't. If he was even really murdered,
okay.
If he was the one that did the murdering, then that would be an obvious lie. You know what I'm saying?
How about this? He'll tell you the rumors I heard earlier today of Sanafusa's death were the first the notion of his death had crossed my mind.
Okay.
And yes, he's telling the truth about that.
Okay. All right. I expected as much, but I had to at least fill out the paperwork. What else seems to be bothering you, friend? You seemed up when I came in here today. Explain his mood.
So Taiyo's death, or at least like, has gone out to everybody, right? Because Aji kind of put that information out there.
Taiyo's dead.
And I think that he'll say I gave you that journal in hopes that you and your colleagues would move against the villains that have brought a rot to this city. I know you were concerned with or preoccupied. I know you were preoccupied with Taiyo, and he says that almost like with a question mark because of like the story that's been heard of with Taiyo's death. But if Taiyo was to be a scorpion model of, basically like if Taiyo was to be a scorpion model of like duty and loyalty, perhaps a greater way to honor him is to act against those others, even within his own clan, who would make a mockery of such tenets of Bushido.
I wish he had seen it that way, but the more we learn of his recent coming and goings, the more we learn that he was in on it. He was fully behind supporting. He was fully supporting Governor Hyogo and her machinations within the city.
Cool.
Yeah, and he'll just say like. And he'll just kind of like look down and say, I had suspected as much, but I hoped it wasn't true.
However, thankfully, as I'm sure you've heard, Sakalanjo is visiting our city, and if there's any man that can find another source, what do they call them? When you need testimony. If there's any man that can find another testimony against the Hyobus, against Governor Hyogo and the Cabal, it would be him. I'm planning on bringing the journal up in a meeting.
I'll say, even without the testimony, something needs to be done. The village outside of the city, Necessary Village, is where the Bayushis have manufactured their opium for decades. It's like all these little barges full of the stuff leave from the Blossom Dock regularly. Places all over the city transform those flowers into poison for the governor. He says, even without testimony, these things need to be stopped.
I understand what you're saying. Perhaps the system has a failing in those crimes which magistrates know about, but that run so deep within a city that they're almost impossible to unentangle. I'll try to do something about it, with or without testimony.
I think he like appreciates it, and he'll like almost like as the meeting's about to end, he'll say, "Ishi-san, did you know of Taiyo's involvement in this?"
He claimed he was infiltrating them to gain testimony. I believed him for a long time. Perhaps that is my weakness. Far too trusting.
And I think he'll just kind of like silently nod. Asako Anjo has a meeting that he has to take. Hoshi can come with him, but Hoshi can't necessarily be privy to what's said in this meeting. Where is this meeting taking place?
I don't know who it's with yet.
So, we're just
Not an answer.
Not good.
I want to reveal this, but so like where would it has to be in the city, but it has to be a place where you can speak to someone else privately.
You're in Kinto's house, right?
Yeah.
He has a giant backyard.
I think it should be somewhere outside of Kinto's house if that's where Anjo's staying.
Yeah. Weren't there like secret gardens in the Teardrop Island that people meet at?
Sure. There's a garden there. There's also the Shosuro Gardens just in the Noble Quarter as well.
I mean, probably not there.
Also, there's
The Governor's Garden? Seems like a bad
a
place.
garden right here, too.
It's kind of like it's like a big public park, like the equivalent of that.
I thought there were like secret meeting gardens in the Teardrop Island.
Yeah, there's just
Did I
like
make that up?
the equivalent of like where people go to like smoke opium or bang in the woods kind of a thing. Yeah.
Wait, okay, then not that.
I'm sure people have secret meetings there all the time.
Yeah.
Secret meetings all the time.
And you don't know who the meeting's with yet.
Yeah, it could be something you do want to bang in the woods.
I mean, I misunderstood the Teardrop Island gardens. So sure, that one that you said is good.
Okay. So maybe we see Asako Kinto show up and almost meditating. Hoshi stands nearby as Kinto walks toward like almost like a little maze made of some like a little hedge maze kind of a thing.
Oh, okay.
And that works either way with corn, by the way. So
The hedge of maze.
So we see Anjo kind of strut through here until eventually he comes to like a particular plant, and he kind of hangs out near that for a little while. Cool. And someone else is on the other side of this hedge wall, like at the same plant, though like the audience's vision of them is obscured. So theoretically, Anjo and the person that Anjo is meeting are on the two sides of this hedge, but can speak quietly enough to one another that they can hear one another, but if anyone sees them, they are completely alone.
Just talking to a hedge.
And you hear, and we hear a beautiful voice. A voice that the audience has definitely heard before. And you hear her say, and it's a woman's voice, and she says, Taiyo's death was a setback. It's good that you came here so quickly.
So what's the plan now?
So now that we don't have anyone inside the cartels to help to bring them down, we have to act against them from the outside.
Well, with what the magistrates have learned about Taiyo, it should be easy enough to convince them to go against them.
That's good. They'll want to wait for testimony. If testimony can be found, that's wonderful. Even better would be if the Scorpion, protected by the law, still can't manage their own affairs in this and still can't hold on to this without chaos or bloodshed. That might better prove to your Emerald Champion that perhaps they don't deserve to wield this weapon.
Well, from what I've heard, it's not hard to start bloodshed in this city anyway.
Anjo was maybe this is revealed to the audience rather than to Anjo. Anjo had been reluctant to do that stuff to deal with the bandit Fade, and she'll bring up if information can be gotten to the unicorn about shipments, the bandits can be deployed against any of those shipments. And so,
if the unicorn know?
Yeah, and so basically if the unicorn are given any information, that information will get to Fade and the bandits. And I think Anjo already knew this information, but the audience, I think, can make the connection now that that's why there hadn't been, like, that the bandit attacks that had gone on in the past hadn't been going on because the bandits have been tied up in the unicorn's attack against the opium cartels. And so if it seemed like, Fade and his men haven't been doing stuff, it's because they've been involved in this attack against...
Yeah, like within the city.
Yeah, and we can even figure out that initial attack when the PCs were attacked and the seal was stolen, that the way that that Fade and the bandits got the information about when they were coming and going was because that information slipped to the unicorn. And then they could tell Fade and the bandits. And so she'll basically say, like, if information can just be given to the unicorn in some way or mentioned to them, that information will then get to Fade and then they'll go after those folks.
Well, the unicorn here are proving to be ravenous for information that goes against the Scorpion. It shouldn't be hard.
And she'll say, the important thing, though, is that they don't reap... that if this tool is taken from the Scorpion, that it's not handed to them. We don't want this weapon in their hands either.
Who have they decided to give it to?
This isn't food. We'd rather see a far smaller crop, so long as we're the only ones who eat from it. So long as we're the only ones fed. And she'll basically kind of like lay out that it needs to go to somebody who's like essentially honest enough that it's not gonna, that the illegal opium market is basically gonna shrink.
Right.
That the conspiracy will be the only one who benefits from it, really, even though the amount that they'll benefit will be so much smaller than the Scorpion benefit at the moment from this massive drug trade. Use the other be sure to use the other magistrates effectively. Each of them has ties in the city that can certainly be exploited.
I'm not worried. It shouldn't be difficult.
The High Master is pleased. She may have been referred to as like a master, and then she references like the High Master, this person who's like farther involved in this, like ahead of her in this conspiracy. And she says your service in this, in bringing about the change, is great, for the knots of the lawgivers. The knots of lawgivers are tight. Maybe she whispers it in such a way where we have to have subtitles on the bottom, but then that we see that like the letters of that spell kolot.
Kolot.
Yeah.
I remember them.
So I think that she kind of...
And whose voice was recognizable?
So I think that... I think that, yeah, the audience recognizes this voice as the woman in the basket hat.
Okay.
Oh, gotcha.
That's kind of what I expected now.
And as she leaves, I think Anjo, you guys are done with that meeting unless you have some kind of question for her.
No, that's fine.
I know that was mostly supposed to be just spooky. Mm-hmm. You leave and you go out on one side of this thing, and then we have we kind of follow her and we see that it's this young samurai ko. She's maybe in her early 30s. She moves with the grace, poise, and strength of a warrior, and as we see her pass by commoners, we notice that all of them treat her with respect and admiration. Even more so than a regular samurai ko. There's something about her that seems to demand the respect of those around her. Something that seems to almost place her above suspicion. All right, we see another small village out in the countryside. It's getting dark. It's just about dusk. And a child of maybe 9 or 10, maybe a little younger than that, is carrying 2 buckets attached on a pole to a well. It's kind of off a little distance from the rest of the village. It's maybe a 3 or 4 minute walk from where there are kind of more houses. And the child reaches down into the well, or dips down the bucket into one of the buckets into the well, and kind of takes a moment to pause, kind of rest. You can tell that this kid is cold. You can tell that this kid's been working hard all day. He takes a drink from one of the buckets of the really cold water. And then he turns kind of the other bucket on the other side to go dip that in to get more water to bring back into the village for his family. As he reaches down, we see a shadow kind of cast over him.
Ooh, it's going to be...
So the camera kind of zooms out and we see that what is casting this shadow is a tall figure cloaked in rags.
Mm-hmm. Who could that possibly be?
So
how about
the child reaches down pretty far. Maybe the water. There's ice that has to be kind of broken in the well to kind of get to this, but it's thin ice. But they still take some effort, and they reach down to do this. And for the first time, we see in the reflection of the water the face of this creature. And we see the face of this creature covered in rags behind this child. And it looks exactly like Hida Ishi. With the exception of 2 things. And so I think that this creature looks exactly like Ishi. With the exception of 2 subtle aspects. What are those aspects? There are 2 subtle things as well.
a red question mark around his head? This obviously is not Ishi.
Who am I?
What physical things changed? It was just your hair that changed?
My hair changed? Yeah.
And all the others were mental or...
Mental or dealing with elements and bullshit.
One easy thing is just the hair is somehow different.
That was my immediate go-to as well. If we didn't have anything, that's what I was going to throw out.
It's like his old hair color or something. They switched at some point.
They say he's got two mismatched eye colors.
Ooh.
Okay.
That's subtle, right?
Yeah. So he still has the black hair that Ishi had before. That maybe. No, I think because Ishi was supposed to be like weirdly young for his age, like looked weirdly young for his age, where maybe he should have been graying but wasn't. But now all of a sudden his hair is entirely gray almost. Well, this person has like the jet black hair of a far younger version of Ishi, but his eyes are those two like very slightly different tones that at first aren't quite noticeable. And the kid turns around in terror. And we see into the face, we see those eyes much more clearly, and we see him looming over this child. And we kind of hop over to the village where we see like a mother yelling out like, Yoshi, where are you? Yoshi, you haven't come back. Like, hurry up with that water. And then she just sees the creature turns to her, and she sees this. She sees the same image that we saw, and we see a man who's cloaked in rags, but who looks exactly like Ishi otherwise.
Is he also a giant?
Yeah, he's also like very, very tall, but tall in the way that Ishi is, as opposed to like the 15 feet or whatever that this thing had sometimes like appeared to be. And so she sees this strange man who then turns back to her son and almost like descends upon him, and they go into this well. And when she runs over, she's like, Yoshi, Yoshi, and she looks down into the well, and of course they're gone.
City of Lies is Toan as Kakita Aji, Branden as Hida Ishi, David as Bayushi Taiyo, Andrew as Agasha Yugure, and Austin as your Game Master. The theme music for City of Lies is Mission of Danger by Lobo Loco. This American Dice Ryoko Owari City of Lies uses the City of Lies box set by Greg Stolz, published by Alderac Entertainment Group. The mechanics used is a modified PBTA system by Brendan Taylor of Galileo Games. Join us next time for more This American Dice. Hey everybody, if you could please rate, review, and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcatcher, it would really help This American Dice. And for every 5-star review we receive, we'll read it on air. Join us next week for another episode of This American Dice.